Why didn't he text me back? Why didn't he wait up to make sure I got home safe? Am I asking for too much? Today, we're going to talk about this viral story that came up, this viral dating story that's gone all over TikTok and Twitter. This TikToker asked the girlies to weigh in and tell her if she's being unreasonable or if she's being perfectly normal and expecting this from a guy that she has been dating for not that long of a period. I think she said on a couple dates. We'll hear the full story when I play this video. And then we're going to talk about one of the most common mistakes that women make when they are dating and a couple of ways to fix it, because I keep hearing the same stuff over and over again when it comes to dating. And I do not envy the single girlies out there, because I know it's not an easy landscape to navigate. Welcome to The Shift with Gina, a podcast where we talk about building healthy, whole women for stronger families and a thriving society. So of course, we're going to be talking about dating and marriage. So let's watch this video and hear her story. And she's a very beautiful girl. I don't know who she is, but this video just came up on my page. So let's take a look and hear what she has to say and then discuss.
I need the girls to weigh in on this because I can't tell if I'm being completely irrational or unreasonable. So I've been seeing this guy and we've seen each other a couple of times at this point. We decided to have dinner the other night. So we go out to dinner. We both have a couple of glasses of wine at dinner. And then we go back to his place together. This is my first time at his place. And I think we all can assume what happened from there. So I'm going home and he walks me to my car, thankfully. And as we're saying goodbye, he tells me to text him when I get home. Courteous, right? It took me about 20 minutes to get home. So by the time I'm home, it's around 2 a.m. I text him that I made it home safely and he doesn't respond. So he texts me back the next morning and he's like, glad you made it home okay. He obviously fell asleep, but I just feel like given the circumstances, I'm a new girl that you're seeing. We both had a couple of glasses of wine with dinner. We just hooked up and I was driving home late at night. I feel like he should have stayed awake to make sure I made it home okay. Obviously, I get it that late at night. No one wants to stay up, but like when you're dating, don't you want to make sure she made it, especially as a guy? I mean, like, I don't have many means to defend myself. Like, should something happen? I don't know. I just feel like he should have made sure I made it home okay. Is that unreasonable? I mean, it was like 2 a.m., so I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know.
Okay. So that's her story that has been going around like wildfire on Twitter. She asked the girlies to weigh in. Is it too much to ask to expect him to wait up and text her back when she gets home at 2 a.m.? There are many, many layers to address here. Before we get into the very first layer, enrollment to my women's health group is open. So how would you like to join a community of hundreds of women who are like-minded, share a lot of values, but are also really focused on improving their health and wellness? We have this great challenge coming up in the month of May. We're going to be boosting progesterone and lowering stress. Really important things to help balance hormones, whether you're preparing for pregnancy or whether you're trying to have a healthier menstrual cycle. We have weight loss programs in my group. We have monthly challenges, weekly workouts, weekly recipes. We've got all sorts of stuff happening in there, plus the support of hundreds of women who are on a similar journey as you are. So a lot of women are there for weight loss and have had a lot of success, but a lot of women are just there to feel their very best. So enrollment for The Shift is now open. You just have to go to the description, the show notes here, click on the link, and you can join. It's a really, really affordable price. It's like the cost of 2 lattes a month. And you get a lot of educational information, a lot of webinars, live streams, interviews with experts that you're not going to see online, because can't post this stuff online because it gets it just gets banned. So yes, please join. Click the link in the description. Only women, sorry guys, only women are allowed in the group. Okay, so the first layer to address in this video is she inadvertently reveals the innate need that all women have when it comes to a boyfriend or a husband. We want to feel protected by our man. We want to feel safe with him physically and emotionally. We want to feel like his priority is to make sure harm does not come our way. No matter how much feminist girl boss rhetoric has been shoved down our throats over the last couple decades at this point, we have this biological desire to be protected by men. That's how it has always been for all of human history until like 5 minutes ago. And even in the modern world where women are fully independent and we live alone and we travel alone, which remember is still is a pretty new, novel thing compared to the rest of human history, women are still yearning for the protection of men. So even though this woman has a fully independent life, lives alone, does all the things, has all the freedoms that her ancestors didn't have. She still desires to be protected by a man that she is dating. Just dating, not even a guy that she is like in a long-term relationship with or married to. You know, you hear stuff like this and you know deep down, I bet she didn't even want to go home that night. She wanted to sleep next to him, preferably knowing that there was a firearm and other weapons near his side of the bed. So just in case there was an intruder, because listen to where her mind goes. She says, I don't have many means to defend myself. That's what she said, word for word. I don't have many means to defend myself. And yeah, driving home at 2 a.m. after drinking wine and having sex with a guy for the first time, that's a lonely kind of scary thing to do. Again, no matter how feminist or girl boss you think you are, there is always a part of you that feels a little bit unsafe and feels like you want somebody to protect you or at the very least check in on you. And she is basically admitting that even though we have been programmed to believe that this kind of behavior, you know, dating and sleeping around with men like it's nothing, is empowering and liberating, we deep down want to be cared for and doted on by a man. I would encourage this woman, I don't know anything else about her, I just know she's very pretty. Stop lying to yourself. Ladies, stop lying to yourselves. That's not what you want deep down. It's also not good for you at the end of the day. Like, women don't want to be used and just thrown to the wayside and left to fend for themselves to get home at 2:00 in the morning. Even the women who are most supportive of this sort of independent, free sex life, whatever they think is so liberating, even the women who participate in that, at the end of the day, they still want something a little bit old-fashioned. And it doesn't matter how prude it may sound, because people call me prude for saying things like this, and that's fine. Hookup culture is toxic to both women and men, especially women. Men never had it better. They get the sex they want without strings attached, without the commitment. This guy had a fun night with a beautiful girl, drank some wine, took her home to his house, didn't even have to go to her house, got to just bring her home to the convenience of his own home, have sex with her, and then send her on her way so she could just fend for herself and go home in the middle of the night while he could fall asleep in the comfort of his own bed. That's a huge win for him. For him, that's a win across the books. And for her, it's kind of a loss. She gave herself away sexually and she has to find her way home in the middle of the night. So all in all, this dating story is a perfect reflection of what hookup culture is and why it isn't nearly as exciting and rewarding as people try to make it out to be. I mean, we live in such a strange time where our culture has desperately tried and succeeded in normalizing random hookups, right? As if it's totally normal, as if it's empowering, as if women should be doing it. But if you went back in time just like 100 years ago and tried to explain this scenario to somebody, they'd be so confused and they'd probably be in shock and they'd look at you like you were crazy. But now in this sort of deconstructed time that we live in, this is supposed to be considered normal and acceptable. This idea that you completely separate the value of your own sexuality from the care and love of somebody else, or even the commitment of somebody else. She ended up making a follow-up video on her TikTok where she complained about people's reaction to her video. And this is what she said. She said, God forbid a woman has a sex life, saying that it was just so backwards and mean and cruel that people were telling her that she made the wrong choice. And this is what happens when you have casual sex. And she was saying, God forbid a woman has a sex life, and then proceeded to claim that women should be free to have sex however they want, with whomever they want, without judgment. Here's the thing. If that's what you really want as a woman, which it's not what you really want, even biologically, we're not wired to want that. But if that's what you claim to really want as a woman, you have to be an adult and be prepared for the natural consequences, because you can't affect the reality. You can't change the reality of cause and effect. It's just how it is. So if you do not value your own sexuality and carefully guard the access that others have to your body, men in turn will also not value your sexuality, and they will also not respect the access that they have to your body. That's just the way it is. If we're going to be honest adults here, if you want to have casual sex with a guy that you've been seeing for a couple of dates, maybe even less than that, and you just go to his house and have sex with him and then just leave in the middle of the night, you have to be prepared to be treated as if you just performed those actions. And this is the number one most common mistake that women make when they're dating. They expect men that they are just casually dating to treat them like a wife or even a longtime girlfriend that they deeply care for. Again, you can call me prude and unreasonable, but the truth is more and more women are waking up to the fact that hookup culture doesn't actually benefit them. And it doesn't result in men respecting them, caring for them, and wanting to establish a long-term relationship or marriage with them. And this woman, like many others, may say, yeah, but that's not what I want. I don't really want a long-term relationship. I just want to have fun. I just want to have a sex life. Okay, if that's the case, then why are you so caught up in the fact that he didn't wait for you to get home and he didn't text you back? That's because these desires, they come naturally. Of course, a woman wants the man that she just gave her body to confirm that she got home safely before he falls asleep. Of course, every woman wants that. When I was first dating my husband, he never, not once, let me get home by myself. Every single time we hung out in the beginning, he took me home, either drove me or walked me home, and made sure he saw me with his own eyes go safely through the front door of my apartment building before he walked away. We lived in San Francisco when we met. So, especially there, he knew that there was not a single time that he was going to let me make my way back home alone, especially at night. And that's, this is really the heart of the matter. If a man truly cares about you, he will do whatever it takes to take care of you, to make sure that you're safe. It actually reminds me of that rom-com called He's Just Not That Into You. It was like with Jennifer Aniston and Ben Affleck and Justin Long and this sort of ensemble cast of, I think also Jennifer Connelly, Bradley Cooper, Scarlett Johansson. And I think it was Justin Long's character who said that if the man is really interested, if he really likes you, he's going to pick up the phone. He's going to make it clear that he wants to see you. He will drive across the city to make plans with you. He will wait up 20 minutes before he falls asleep to confirm that you got home safely, even if it is 2 a.m. in the morning. And he was telling, I think, the character of Jennifer Goodwin, he was like, if a man likes you, he will let you know. He will do everything he can to make it clear that he's into you. And this movie was probably from like the mid 2000s, maybe like 07, 08, 09 or something like that. But it's actually today, we will have probably some Gen Zers who think that that's like outdated, archaic dating advice. But it's true. If a guy really cares about you, he's not going to fall asleep after he just sent you off in the middle of the night to just get home by yourself at 2 a.m. Like, there's no way he would do that. If he really cared about you and your safety, he would have either driven you home. He wouldn't have even let you leave in the middle of the night. That's what's crazy to me. He wouldn't just let you leave at like 1:30 in the morning. He would make sure that you were totally safe. And call me an old lady who has outdated thoughts on dating, whatever, fine. But if women keep giving themselves away to men who don't care about them that much, they will only be surrounded by men who don't care about them that much. And this kind of toxic hookup culture lays a poor foundation for both men and women to prepare themselves for marriage and family. And even on an individual level, it lays a poor foundation for individuals, for people to feel loved, whole, and cared for. And you can't convince me that the hookup culture is good for men either. It's not good for men to treat sex casually, even though you could certainly make the argument that men are a little bit more biologically wired to treat sex a little bit more casually, simply down to the fact that they have hundreds of millions, essentially unlimited amounts of sperm cells. And women are only fertile once a month, and we have a limited number of eggs in our body when we are born. You can get down to the biological differences and argue that men are more wired to be sexually promiscuous. Sure, It still doesn't give them an excuse to be, because, we're not completely just biological creatures. We're spiritual creatures. We're emotional creatures, and we are called by God to rise above our base animal desires and our base animal instincts and to be moral human beings. But aside from that, even if you can say that men are more wired to be promiscuous sexually, like, hookup culture is not good for men either. It's not good for men to be slaves to their fleshly desires. It's not good for men to delay or completely reject intimacy with a woman. Because sure, if you want to get down to the research, there's decades long research showing that marriage is beneficial for men. Men who are married, especially for a long period of time, they're physically healthier, they're financially wealthier, they live longer, they're mentally happier, they're cared for. Even down to when men get older, the men who are still married are the ones who have better health. They're cared for better in the hospital. They have somebody advocating for them. I mean, it is generally better for men to be married. Yes, you can also talk about the weaknesses of the family law courts right now, and how a lot of these policies will favor the women in the marriage, especially in a divorce. But still, generally, you can't argue, you can't deny that marriage is still good for men. And also spiritually, it's what men are called to do. It's what we are called to do. Men are called to lay down their life for their wife the same way that Christ laid down his life for the church. And that is what brings the fulfillment and the lasting reward. That's the promise that Christ gave us through marriage, through Christian marriage. So yeah, no, hookup culture is not good for men or for women. It's just a little bit easier for men to participate in than it is for women, because you're never going to see a guy who gets on TikTok and he's like, oh, I just hooked up with a girl last night for the first time and she didn't text me back. Like, you're just not really going to see that. You see a lot more women now, because it's funny, right? This phenomenon of TikTok and Instagram, this authentic, radical honesty that's coming out online, where people just do the get ready with me videos, or they just do story time videos, and they tell a lot of these personal stories of how the hookup culture is just not serving them anymore. And the more accounts that women see like this, the more likely they are to get online and say, you know what, I also had an experience where this didn't really work out for me. So you can call us prude, call us old, archaic, whatever. And I'm not saying this as somebody who was perfect in my dating life. Absolutely not. But I'm here as someone who has been on both sides and who knows that there is very little fulfillment in dating around and casually dating and giving your body away versus dating with a purpose, long-term dating to try to find a husband and someone who loves you and cares about you and cherishes you, including part of you, which is your sexuality. So how do women fix this common mistake of dating? That common mistake, which is expecting men that you casually give yourself to treat you with respect and love. Before I answer that, I want to remind you, how would you like to lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks? We are opening up spots for my Fit and Lean program. It's a 10-week long program where you get guidance from me for nutrition, workouts, lifestyle habits. This is particularly good for women who are trying to shed some excess body fat. Maybe you're past the postpartum phase, haven't lost the baby weight yet, or maybe you have a big event coming up this summer that you want to look really good for. You want to fit into a certain dress. Now's the time to jump into my program. We have some really great success stories. I'm just finishing up now with a woman who has her own wedding coming up. She's lost 13 pounds so far. Another woman who's only been in the program for 4 weeks and has already lost 7 pounds. So this is a really great program to teach you sustainable habits. No crash diets, no elimination diets. We go over the right workouts to do, the right kind of attitude towards eating, the right lifestyle that's going to help you take the weight off and keep the weight off. So if you want to join, we have a few spots left. There are only limited spots in this program. Click the link in my description. Join us for the 10-week challenge. It's called Fit and Lean. Okay, so how do we fix this most common mistake? It first begins with changing what kind of men you're dating, of course, and where you're meeting these men. You have to weed out these guys from the very beginning. First of all, no dating apps. Just stop with the dating apps, ladies. I know that's a really tough one because it seems impossible to meet guys now in other places. But make it clear from the very beginning that you are not easy to get, that you place a big value on your own sexuality and your own body. That doesn't mean you have to go in guns blazing and demanding that he commits right off the bat. I think it's, a lot of the commentary on dating when it comes from the right, it can sometimes be a little bit stiff and legalistic, and it just takes all the fun out of dating. I don't think there's anything wrong with having fun when you're dating, Be flirty and playful and feminine and have fun in the beginning, but through your body language and through your actions, make it clear that you will not be giving yourself away anytime soon. And that you are looking for a man who will care for you, just like you're looking for a man that you can also care for. Observe his behavior. You have to weed out men. And especially if you're a Christian who's dating, you really have to pray for discernment to know what the red flags are, who you should be looking for, where you should be looking for men. Because I think one of the biggest issues that I see right now is that women are just looking in the wrong places. And one of those, probably the first wrong place, is dating apps. It's unfortunate because I hear so many single women right now who are talking about how impossible it is to meet men outside of dating apps. And, you know, there are a lot of places you can try. You can friend groups, church, meetups. I mean, I met my husband at jujitsu. I started jujitsu and he was one of the professors there. I recommend the jujitsu gym to a lot of women. One of my friends, she's almost engaged to a guy that she met at jujitsu because I recommended that she went to jujitsu, and it worked because the guys who are in the sort of fitness / martial arts circle, they tend to be more disciplined. They tend to be more masculine, and they tend to have more like traditional values because it's really difficult to be masculine, to be physically healthy while also having leftist values. They just don't match. They just don't. So going to a place where men are already physically fit, they're already committed to their lifestyle, because you're very, very, very rarely going to find a guy who is really into fitness or martial arts, who drinks a lot, who parties a lot, who doesn't take care of his body. It's like basically impossible to be a fighter or a really, really enthusiastic gym goer when you're drinking a lot and doing drugs, you know? So you weed out a lot of guys already when you go to these kinds of places. And plus there aren't really many women. They have women's classes at jiu-jitsu gyms and you can go just to like learn self-defense, and you've got, you know, a pretty good cream of the crop to pick from. But, you know, outside of that, it's hard. You know, you can say like volunteering, try to go to causes or events where people are there for a certain value or a certain reason. But I recognize that it's hard. And I know it's also tough to see a lot of the rhetoric online where people are saying that any woman who's over 30 and single and childless and unmarried has like, I literally saw a tweet the other day where a guy was like, any woman who is over 30 and still single and childless and unmarried has sinned against God. And I'm like, this is not helpful stuff, guys, because there are a lot of women who are over 30 or, you know, in their early 30s and they just haven't found their husband yet. And I don't think it's necessarily because they themselves are bad candidates for marriage. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think also men are a little bit less interested in marriage than they have been in the past. And that makes it difficult because part of that is because of hookup culture. Why would they want to get married when they're 30? These men, they have access to a lot of different women sexually, and it takes commitment. Marriage is not easy. Marriage is not for the faint of heart. It really takes commitment and work. And it takes attention and energy. And a lot of young men are stuck in this perpetual Peter Pan syndrome where they don't want to give that time and energy and commitment. And then, you know, there is, of course, the component where women don't want the same thing. They don't want commitment in marriage either. But I'm talking more about the women who yearn to be married. You just really have to be careful where you're picking these men, because a lot of times the places that you're going, like if you're meeting them at bars or, like I said, dating apps, these are just not the type of men that want to be married to you either. So that's my piece of advice. I'm no expert when it comes to dating and marriage. I feel really blessed that I found my husband, that we found each other in San Francisco of all places. And we left about a year after being together. We left and then got married. But you have to be patient. I think it's more worth it to wait for the right person than it is to get married young and marry the wrong person, because our goal should not be just get married as young as possible. I think our goal should be building strong marriages and strong families. And if you can do that younger, that's great. But I don't think it's wise to just encourage a 20-year-old to get married as soon as possible, no matter what. It's more important to choose the right person. So be careful what circles you're spending time in, who you're spending time with. And you don't have to settle. I'm not saying that you should have the unrealistic standards of 6'4", makes $500,000 a year, is really kind and generous and has a rich family. Like, throw all of those silly rules out the window. I'm not saying you should settle, but you shouldn't have unrealistically high standards. You just have to make it clear from the beginning that you're looking for a guy who's not going to just casually approach you and casually approach your relationship and casually use your sexuality. So that's it. Those are my 2 cents. Good luck to all of the singles out there. I wish I could run a matchmaking service because I love to see people get married. So if you're single and you live in wherever you live, tell me where you live. I'll see if I know any single men who are looking for a single lady and vice versa. Maybe we can do some matchmaking experiments. But anyway, that's all I got for today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Share the video if you've enjoyed it. If there are any other viral stories you want me to cover, let me know. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.